This is Daria and I'm Tony, and we're here today to talk with Azizbek Urunov, Chief Negotiator for the WTO Accession Working Party. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Welcome.
There is the goal to, by 2026, be a full member of the WTO. How do you see that going? You have a year and a half left.
Of course, it is an ambitious goal, but as we discussed it with the WTO members, they're all supportive in this term. So they're saying, please keep this pace, do your job, and we fully support you whenever you are ready to exit the organization. So in terms of 2026, we are aiming to complete this process by the next ministerial conference, which will take place in Cameroon. Even though it sounds a bit ambitious, but in terms of how the country is currently doing and relying on the support of the leadership, President himself is very supportive in this process, and the presidential administration, for example, President's assistants, very helpful in pushing the reform agenda, and the government, the leadership in the government, they are also very much supporting those reforms. If we keep this pace, I think 2026 is, I would say, a quite achievable goal.
And it's not as if this has only been a recent development. Uzbekistan's Working Party was first established in 1994.
Yes, this is the 30th year.
Yeah, one of the longest WTO history.
One of the, but the longest one I think comes to Algeria. Mm-hmm. So they applied in 1987 for GATT, and since then they are having this accession process for over 37 years. And in other countries, Belarus, they applied in 1993, I think, 1 year before Uzbekistan applied. But agree, Uzbekistan's process has been one of the longest. But for most of the years, it was dormant in terms of there were no negotiation.
And the president has done a lot within the last couple of years in opening up Uzbekistan's markets and passing a lot of reforms to bring in more FDI, to combat monopolies through Decree 85 most recently. And how do you see these reforms working in with the WTO standards, everything necessary to reach that accession?
According to the requirements of the WTO, to be honest, WTO Director General visited Tashkent past 10 days, and then also trade representative of the United States also visited and both of them and all other partners with whom we are in touch, they are opposing the adoption of this presidential decree, which foresees the abolishing exclusive rights of SOEs. So WTO requires, WTO doesn't mind having monopolies or SOEs, but the only requirement is that WTO wants them to work on a commercial basis at the with the equal conditions and equal rights all other non-SOEs or regular enterprises
without preferential treatment.
Without any preferential treatment. So one of the key principles of the WTO is the principle of equal treatment, whether it's a SOE, private company, importer, exporter, and so on.
And for me, the biggest thing I have seen in my years here in Uzbekistan is Uzbekistan has a lot of the right legislation, a lot of the right laws are there, they're written down, but it comes to the implementation, things don't always go as planned. How can we then ensure that once these laws are in place, once Uzbekistan becomes a member, that those standards are then upheld?
Well, so it's partially related with the mindset, as I understand, but with the change that we have been having for the past 7 years, so the leadership, the president is always trying to change the mindset of the people as well, so that we don't have any dogmas. So whatever gives prosperity, whatever gives sustainable development opportunities, we should go for that. In this term, having this solid legislative basis is important on the one hand. On the other hand, as you mentioned, their full implementation is the biggest challenge. And it's not only a challenge for us, but I think it's a challenge for many developing countries. So sometimes we have to run after investors to convince them to come to Uzbekistan, to invest in Uzbekistan. And I think WTO Accession will give a great advocacy for many to believe that Uzbekistan has a very favorable, not only very favorable national legislation, but its practice and implementation is also aligned with what is written on papers and in the legislation. Yes.
And speaking of those benefits, what kind of tangible benefits do you think that Uzbek entrepreneurs or businessmen, enterprises, what can they get once Uzbekistan joins this organization?
So the first and the most important part is the equal treatment. So equal condition for all stakeholders in terms of whether it's a state-owned company or private company, there will be equal treatment for everybody, which is a base for good competition environment. So competition is always about progressing. In this term, having equal right will be one of the key assets after this WTO accession. Another point is that when there is a clarity for future, it means that quality investments. Uzbekistan is a very attractive economy. If you take, we are biggest economy in the region in terms of market. The population is almost half of the whole Central Asian region, and very young. In this term, Uzbekistan is quite attractive for investors.
And the GDP is growing from 5 to 6% on any given year.
Comparing to indeed world average economic growth, Uzbekistan's development paces are much higher, which makes it again very attractive for investors. So in this term, WTO accession will give us a chance to attract quality investments, which means modern technologies, management is very important in this term, which will be on its turn reflecting positively on further economic development. And also it will give us a chance to talk to our foreign trade partners in their language, because for 166 countries there is one common trade language, which is the WTO rules and norms, which will be very important for us as well in terms of trading with foreign countries. The ambitious goals that we have put forward Even if you look at the Uzbekistan strategy 2030, we want to enter among upper middle income countries by then. We want to double our GDP, which means that only relying on domestic market, it will be almost impossible to achieve these goals. We need global presence. And WTO is opening up this window for Uzbekistan. So competition, equal treatment, quality investments, which will eventually bring us to heightened global presence.
Being actually part of that supply chain. Sure. The Director General, when we spoke with her a couple of days ago, she mentioned, for me, and a really poignant quote was making Uzbekistan a land-linked country instead of landlocked.
Indeed, that was a very, I would say, profound thinking way of saying that now, yes, we are always saying that we are double landlocked country, but by WTO accession, indeed, we want to make Uzbekistan not a landlocked but land-linked country in terms of foreign trade, in terms of overall trade economic relations with the countries.
Through transportation, logistics, all of that.
That's why our president is always giving new initiatives of linking Uzbekistan with different regional and global economies. And Uzbekistan is, as being in the middle of the Central Asia, is surrounded by big economies like China,
Russia
in the east, Russia in the north, and EU in the west, and the Gulf region, as well as South Asia in the south. So having these economic, I would say, economic corridors, not only transit corridors or transportation corridors, but we want to create economic corridors, again, which will help our industries to enter into these global value chains.
And for me, Uzbekistan is perfectly placed, not only for those trade corridors, but actually to take advantage of that in a way that will strengthen their position in any negotiations they have.
Fully agree.
Because they have any other country that wants to go through this region without going over the Caspian Sea or through Russia, it needs Uzbekistan.
Of course. So Uzbekistan is positioned very well in terms of linking the countries regionally as well as globally, if you look a bit broader.
Yeah, especially now with the Trans-Afghan Railway coming underway. There's just the first...
And, China, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan Railway, and we are also working on the middle corridor, which will bring us eventually to Azerbaijan,
Turkey.
Georgia, Turkey, which will further open seaways to Europe and the whole world.
It's very exciting.
Yes. And also, you know, having this Trans-Afghan corridor make us much better in terms of having the shortest access to the sea.
Yes, to Gwadar port there in Pakistan.
In Pakistan as well as in Iran.
When you mentioned competition as being a positive thing, there are a lot of local entrepreneurs who are not so convinced about the accession, about joining the WTO. They feel like local industry will not survive foreign competition. What do you have to say to the naysayers? You know,
business always wants comfort. In this term, yes, of course, it's not going to be easy for, of course, some industries. That's why maybe some industries started thinking about this beforehand, and it's good. So because they get prepared for the heightened competition. But I'm sure this competition will do them much better off comparing to what they have. Because, for example, if we are always afraid of a foreign competition, it means that our business will be limited only to our domestic market. Yeah. But being open to competition, which will open a great opportunity for them to exit to foreign markets. But if you look broader at the accession of most of the countries, they only benefited from this WTO accession. And sometimes some people say that, Kazakhstan's business is struggling very much in competition, or Kyrgyzstan. I would say in terms of Kyrgyzstan, if they didn't exceed the WTO, their economic development indicators, I think, to my personal point of view, would be worse than what they have today. And we also talked to colleagues from Kazakhstan. They're all saying that their economy benefited a lot. So economy is not about only one or two enterprises or companies, right? So it's mostly about the economic development, sustainable development, and the improvement of the welfare of the people. Employment opportunities. So if you look at the basic principles and goals of the WTO, so they talk about sustainable development, they talk about employment, and they talk about the prosperity of the people. So these three pillars are the, I would say, core goals that lies behind the idea of establishing a WTO and a bit earlier GATT. And I'm sure for those hard-working enterprises, for hard-working businessmen, it's going to benefit them only, rather than giving kind of a challenge. Challenge will be there, but I'm sure our business, our industries, they can cope with that. And besides that, we should focus on the opportunities that will be opened up within this WTO accession. So we should focus also on the emerging of new industries, new businesses, because of again quality investment that comes to the economy, as I mentioned. Yeah. And if you look at many fast developing economies and developed economies, many of the sectors that they do have, we don't have them.
Yeah, we need to diversify.
It is about diversification, indeed. And also, it would be a little bit incorrect saying that one economy can produce everything. Yes. So WTO will help us with identifying where we have those comparative advantages, which will do much more, I would say, will bring much more efficiency in the economic policy, economic performance, and which will eventually help for raising the capital of the economy.
And for Uzbekistan, that would be green energy, perhaps exporting that critical raw materials.
Yes, WTO Director General was mentioning about green hydrogen, green energy, and also on digital economy. Yes. I must tell you, those propositions that was mentioned by the DG, Uzbekistan starts supporting those industries a bit earlier, and the president is fully encouraging those industries to emerge. This is, by the way, one example of the new industries, new opportunities that we didn't see before, and so there will be many more opportunities for the economy in terms of, I would say, giving a start and development for new industries.
And we can see that with the startup ecosystem now here as well. It's going well.
But I must tell that the WTO accession was already in the agenda of New Uzbekistan immediately from 2017. But as I mentioned, the first years were devoted to correcting many urgent issues, economic reforms, so that we put a good base to prepare ourselves for competition, for getting ready to WTO accession as well. And the reforms we are doing, we are not doing it just for the sake of WTO accession. We are doing it for the sake of giving a boost for economic development, so that we'll be on a pace of sustainability, from which the people benefit.
People and the country as a whole, because the way industries are run now, or at least previously, it was not really sustainable. There was a lot of waste in terms of electricity, water. Uzbekistan and the region is going into a water crisis.
In terms of electricity generation, I tell you, for almost 20 to 25 years, of course, we were modernizing our electricity generation, but in terms of capacity, it was almost standing still. But if you look at the past 5-6 years,
big improvements.
So a lot of new projects. Look at the renewables.
Wind
now
farms.
We are putting a goal of bringing these renewables in terms of overall generation to 40% by 2030. I tell you, many developed countries are not. They don't have. I would say. Such goals.
No.
Yes. So now our president is paying a lot of attention for energy sector, especially electricity generation, because it's a basis for industry and for the economy in general. So without providing your business, your industries, your economy with basic infrastructure, energy,
it will not
then
grow.
You cannot even look forward for sustainability.
Exactly. It is definitely not sustainable. And from what I've noticed is a lot of the foreign investment coming in is related to these renewable energy sectors. Wind farms, from aqua power, solar panels, green hydrogen energy.
I would say Masdar was one of the first believers in our president's policy.
To recognize that potential.
And many more companies followed Masdar, and Aqua Power is one of our strategic partners in this term.
And as I see it, I was looking on the webpage for Uzbekistan's accession on the WTO, and you're halfway within the bilateral negotiations phase.
You can look at other countries' accession scheme as well.
Yes.
It is always drawn in this way. But yes, in terms of bilaterals, we are in the halfway. With the countries, we already finished. But with other countries, with many of them, we are in a very advanced phase. I would say we have, of course, very difficult and tough negotiations that are waiting for us. But with big countries, big WTO members, we have already advanced a lot in terms of bilateral negotiations. So this is one front we are working very actively. There is another front, multilateral, so systematic issues. Again, the presidential decree that was adopted on June the 3rd is one of those very important changes that we lacked in terms of systematic issues, in terms of multilateral negotiations. So we keep this pace. Of course, there are a lot of work to do in front of us for the coming years. And bearing in mind that 2026 is a goal, we must do many things much faster and more dynamically.
Mm. And what are the biggest challenges you have faced within these negotiations?
Of course, there are difficult issues to deal with. Again, for example, if you look at SOEs, I tell you one example. When current vice president of Turkey, when he visited Uzbekistan, he was telling us the story of Turkish Airways. So at the early 1990s, Turkey was considering opening up its market in terms of air carriage and air business, airlines business. And then Turkish Airways came to the government saying that if you open it up, we are going to die. So we should protect us. Otherwise, it will be a big loss for the country, for the company, and so on. But what he said at that time, the government was very determined and decided to release the market. And they are saying that if they didn't decide at that time of opening up the market, coming to now, Turkish Airways wouldn't be the biggest and the best airline company in Europe. And you can look at their business now. There is not a single country where Turkish Airlines is not flying. So indeed, maybe some SOEs, they are a little bit cautious in terms of competition, but again, eventually they will benefit from new opportunities that the WTO Accession will open, and from the competition, they're going to benefit much more.
Yeah, they will not only survive, but they will improve and grow. I think that's a very important example to provide. And I wanted to quickly touch on the support Uzbekistan has had within this accession process. How many countries have announced their support for it?
You know, when we hold working party meetings, in the agenda, the first part is usually devoted for intervention of the countries. And sometimes our chair, Korean ambassador, he asks the countries to be much shorter, or sometimes he asks the countries to keep it in themselves and to focus on the substantive issues, systematic issues that we must discuss according to the agenda. Because I tell you, Uzbekistan's accession is supported by all the countries. So we have 52 countries in the working party. All of them, they're saying we fully support. But again, WTO Accession has its own procedures that we must go through. This is our job. But in terms of support, all the countries are very supportive. And I tell you, big countries, global players, regional big economies, our neighboring countries, they are fully supportive. I tell you, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, they all declared that they wouldn't raise any issue in terms of Uzbekistan's accession, and they are fully supportive. Using this opportunity, I would like to thank ambassadors of Kazakhstan and Tajikistan to the WTO. They have been very active in terms of participation in Uzbekistan's accession working party, and they are always having their voices in terms of support to Uzbekistan. And all other countries, I tell you, this time, United States, the EU, China, India, Russia, they all intervened in this working party meeting, saying that we must speed up Uzbekistan's accession, and in this term, fully supportive.
Last question of interest for me is, do you see the accession and the rest of the Central Asian countries coming together and perhaps forming a common market?
With almost all the Central Asian countries, we have a free trade agreement, which means that the goods can float freely within these markets. But of course, two countries now on the way to WTO accession, it's Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan. In this term, again, it would be very important in terms of if Uzbekistan accedes and Turkmenistan also after coming to the same language and using the opportunity of the whole region in terms of global partnership, in terms of, again, entering into global value change. Because if you look at these economies of the Central Asia, we are not competitors.
No.
We are complementary economies.
The C5.
Yes, C5. And WTO Accession of all Central Asian countries will give much bigger boost in terms of having the whole Central Asia region as a partner, as a global partner with big economies and with other countries. And it's going to be a good opportunity rather than kind of a challenge. And in terms of a common market, I don't want to run much forward, but in the future we'll see. We'll see how the overall multilateral trade system will evolve, because it's also now developing.
Yeah.
And we need to see how the region will perform in terms of, again, global partnership.
Mm. Excellent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, and great to have you here.
Great to be here.
My pleasure. Thank you.